When can we call a computer intelligent? In the 1950s, Alan Turing proposed a simple answer to this question. If a computer can fool a human into believing it is human while having a conversation, then we can call it intelligent. This has become widely known as the Turing test. However, the Turing test does not seem to prove true intelligence. One of the most famous arguments against the Turing test criterion was formulated by a philosopher called John Searle, and is known as the Chinese room argument. It is meant to show that simply passing a test like the Turing test is not a sufficient condition for true understanding. The argument goes as follows. Imagine you are in a room, alone, and you cannot leave. All there is in the room is a stack of writing paper and a whole bookshelf full of books filled with Chinese characters. Every once in a while, a note is passed into the room. On the note, there are a bunch of Chinese characters. Your job is to look up this sequence of characters in your extensive library and write down a sequence of other characters that is given there. You then pass this note back to the people outside of the room. Unbeknownst to you, the notes you receive are questions in Chinese, and the characters you write down make up the right answers to these questions. However, you do not speak Chinese, and therefore you have no idea what is being asked of you or what you are answering. Now you can imagine that after a while, you have become so good at this job that you output answers almost as quickly as the questions are being asked. At this point, the people outside of the room would have reason to believe that there is a Chinese-speaking person in the room. In other words, you would have passed the Turing test, but you still do not understand Chinese. Similarly, a computer that is running on a program and just following commands may appear like it understands language without actually doing so. Now, does this argument show that it is impossible for computers to be able to understand language? One of the most discussed replies to the Chinese room argument is known as the systems reply. Proponents of this reply argue that although the woman in the room may not be said to understand Chinese, the system of the whole room could be said to understand Chinese. The woman, they say, should be seen as the CPU of the computer. Of course, the CPU itself cannot understand anything, but that does not mean that it's impossible for the computer as a whole to achieve true understanding. This seems rather plausible, but Searle has a reply ready. Imagine that after a very long time in the room, the woman has pretty much memorized everything in every book. She can then walk out of the room, and when she meets some Chinese person, she can answer any question he asks her by running the system in her head, as it were. In this case, there is no distinction to be made between the woman and the room. The woman is the room. However, we would still say that she does not understand Chinese. She would not be able to link any objects in the world to the right symbol. When presented with a picture of, for example, a dog, she would not know the appropriate Chinese word for it. Now, of course, we should not allow a mere thought experiment to crush all our hopes of one day creating an AI that can truly understand everything we say to it. But it does show that understanding a language might be something completely different from being able to have a conversation in that language, and that semantics cannot simply be derived from syntax. So before we try to teach a computer to understand language, we might need to work on understanding.